You ever walk into your own house and find strangers hauling away your couch? That's exactly what happened to me. And no, this isn't some nightmare or bad prank. This was the work of our neighborhood's infamous tyrant, better known as HOA Karen. She thought she could take what was mine, and she actually hired movers to back her up. But here's the part she didn't count on. I wasn't just going to stand by and watch. It all started with a ridiculous notice slipped under my door. According to the HOA, my choice of furniture didn't fit the so-called community standards. Yes, you heard that right. My indoor furniture. The stuff inside my own home was somehow a violation. Most folks would laugh this off, but not Karen. She lived for this kind of control, and she wasn't about to stop at sending letters. 2 days later, I pulled into the driveway after work, and what did I see? A moving truck parked out front. At first, I thought maybe a neighbor was moving out, until I spotted men carrying my recliner out the front door like it was theirs. My heart stopped, then rage took over. I stormed inside, and sure enough, Karen was standing in my living room with her arms folded, directing the movers like a general at war. She had the nerve to say, "This is HOA property now. You didn't comply, so we're repossessing it." Repossession? That word alone told me she'd lost her mind. I asked her on what legal authority she thought she could take my belongings, and she shot back, "Community bylaws. Imagine thinking your neighborhood rules give you the power to commit burglary." The movers looked uneasy, clearly not told the full story. They thought this was some kind of landlord-tenant eviction, not a hostile furniture heist. But Karen kept barking orders, demanding they hurry before I could make trouble. What she didn't know was that I already had a camera system recording every second. And even better, my buddy, a local police officer, had warned me months earlier to document Karen's antics, because sooner or later, she'd cross the line. Well, that moment had finally arrived. As the movers tried to haul out my dining table, I smiled, pulled out my phone, and dialed 911. Karen scoffed, saying the cops would take her side. Oh, how wrong she was, because this time I wasn't just the victim. I was the bait. The dispatcher barely finished taking my call when I heard the distant wail of sirens. That was no coincidence. I live in a small town where response times are fast, especially when the caller is reporting an ongoing theft in broad daylight. I glanced at Karen, who stood smugly with her hands on her hips, certain she was untouchable. She actually smirked and said, "You can call whoever you want. The HOA backs me up." Her arrogance was almost comical. She had no clue that the HOA's authority stopped at issuing fines for uncut grass or mismatched paint. It sure didn't extend to breaking and entering. The movers, meanwhile, were sweating bullets. They'd already loaded half my living room into their truck, and now they were realizing they were knee-deep in a crime. One whispered, "Lady, are you sure about this?" But Karen snapped at them, insisting they keep working. Then came the flashing red and blue lights cutting across my driveway. 2 patrol cars screeched to a halt. Out stepped Officer Daniels, the same friend who'd told me months ago, "One day, she's going to hang herself with her own rope. Just wait." Well, Daniels looked at the movers, then at me, then at Karen, and immediately knew who the problem was. "What's going on here?" he asked. Karen didn't miss a beat. She marched forward like she owned the place and declared, "Officer, this man is in violation of HOA rules. We've repossessed his furniture according to the community's authority." Daniels raised an eyebrow, fighting hard not to laugh. "Repossession? Karen, this isn't a bank, and these aren't your things." Her face flushed, but she doubled down, shoving a crumpled HOA pamphlet at him. "It's all here in writing." I could see Daniel's patience thinning. He took the paper, skimmed it, and then turned back to the movers. "Gentlemen, did she hire you to remove this furniture?" They nodded, looking ashamed. "She told us it was all hers. Said the tenant hadn't paid fees." "Tenant?" Daniels repeated, pointing at me. "This is the homeowner. Nothing here belongs to her." The mood shifted instantly. The movers dropped my coffee table like it was radioactive. Karen sputtered, trying to backtrack, claiming she misspoke. But it was too late. Everything was on my cameras, every word recorded, every piece of furniture they'd touched documented as evidence. Daniels calmly pulled out his radio and said, "Dispatch, I need backup. Possible burglary in progress, ringleader on scene." Karen's jaw dropped. "Burglary? You can't be serious." But the truth was, her little stunt had just crossed into felony territory. Karen's face went pale when Daniels used the word burglary. For the first time, her confidence cracked. She tried to smooth it over, saying, "This is a misunderstanding. These men were only helping me enforce community rules." But Daniels wasn't buying it. He motioned to the movers. "Step outside, fellas. You've been misled, but you're still involved in this. We'll need your statements." Relieved, They dropped the furniture where it stood and shuffled out the door, eager to distance themselves from the madness. That left Karen, still standing in my living room like she owned it. Daniels turned to me. "You've got proof of this?" "Oh, I've got plenty," I said, pointing to the small camera blinking red in the corner. "Every second has been recorded." She even admitted on tape that she was repossessing my property. Daniels gave a slow nod. He'd warned me to document her behavior for months, and now he had exactly what he needed. He stepped closer to Karen, his voice firm. "You've got two options. Cooperate and come with us peacefully, or resist and make things much worse." Karen exploded. "This is harassment. I am the HOA president. I have rights." She jabbed her finger at him, then at me. "He's been defying us for months, thinking he's above the rules. Someone had to put him in his place." Daniels sighed, clearly tired of her theatrics. "Ma'am, being HOA president doesn't put you above state law. You can't break into a home and steal property. That's called burglary. And instructing others to do it? That's conspiracy." The words hit her like bricks. Still, she tried to push past him toward the door. "This isn't over. My lawyer will—" But she didn't get far. Daniels grabbed her wrist, twisted gently but firmly, and in one smooth motion had her hands cuffed behind her back. The sound of the metal clicking shut was the sweetest thing I'd heard in weeks. "You're under arrest," Daniels said calmly. "Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Karen shouted, twisting in the cuffs, her voice rising high enough for the whole street to hear. Neighbors were gathering outside, whispering, some even filming on their phones. For years they'd endured her petty fines and bullying tactics, and now they were watching her get hauled out like a criminal. She screamed, "This is all a mistake! You'll regret this." But no one looked convinced. As the squad car door slammed behind her, I realized the HOA's reign of terror had finally hit its breaking point. The courtroom was packed the morning Karen faced her charges. Word had spread quickly through the neighborhood, and nearly everyone who'd ever suffered under her ridiculous HOA reign showed up to watch. Some came out of curiosity, others for closure. I sat in the front row, calm and steady, because I knew the evidence spoke louder than anything Karen could spin. The prosecutor wasted no time. They played the footage from my security cameras. Karen strutting around my living room, barking orders, declaring that my furniture was HOA property. The jury's reaction said it all. A few shook their heads in disbelief, others smirked at her arrogance. The movers also testified, explaining how she duped them into thinking it was a legitimate eviction. That sealed it. Karen's defense lawyer tried to argue she had misinterpreted her authority as HOA president, but the judge cut that down quickly. "HOA regulations are civil matters," he said, leaning forward. "They do not permit forced entry, theft, or harassment. What you orchestrated was criminal." Karen sat there with her lips pressed so tightly they nearly disappeared. She glared at me several times as though I'd somehow betrayed her. But no glare could change the reality. She was guilty, and everyone knew it. When the verdict came, it was swift. Guilty on multiple counts, including conspiracy to commit burglary and trespassing. The sentence? Community service, fines, and probation. Some argued she got off lightly, but honestly, the humiliation was worse than any jail time. For a woman who thrived on power and appearances, being branded a criminal in front of her neighbors was a punishment she couldn't escape. After the hearing, people came up to me shaking my hand, thanking me for finally standing up to her. One older couple said, "We never thought anyone would put her in her place." Another whispered, "It's like the neighborhood can breathe again." As for me, I went home to my furniture, still right where it belonged, and finally enjoyed a quiet evening in that recliner she'd tried to steal. Every time I sat in it, I remembered the look on her face when the cuffs clicked shut. Karen vanished from the HOA scene after that. She resigned, probably pressured out by her own humiliation, and without her constant meddling, the neighborhood slowly stitched itself back together. Sometimes all it takes to topple a tyrant is catching them in the act. And thanks to my cameras, some brave movers, and one very patient cop, justice was finally served, right in my living room. If you enjoyed this crazy HOA Karen story, don't forget to hit like, drop a comment with your thoughts, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next wild episode. Your support keeps these stories coming.